Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's installment of Align's Daily Dose of Advice, our way of bringing you valuable insights and thought leadership from business experts from around the world on various topics that will hopefully help you and your business. My name is Eugene Turk. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Align. And if you'd like to learn more about Align, you can always check us out at aligntoday.com. Today is a rather special day for us as we have two guests on for the very first time, Chris Schultz and Driscoll. Chris is a seasoned expert in high growth companies, an angel investor, and someone who has spent the past 15 years working with startups to raise millions of dollars in capital and create thousands of jobs. In 2019, he founded LaunchPad, a startup workspace and community for entrepreneurs, creatives, and professionals here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Anne is a longtime Silicon Valley exec and a former Googler who joined LaunchPad in 2017 as president and COO. In 2019, she was named CEO. And since then, she and Chris have expanded LaunchPad to new markets in Newark, Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, and Stockton, California. And she also oversaw the creation of the LaunchPad Fund for investing in opportunity zone-based companies across the USA. More recently, the two of them have launched LaunchPad TV, a digital network with programming that features virtual community, building, knowledge sharing, and connection for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and digital nomads everywhere. You guys have done a lot. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you guys both.
It's great to be here, Eugene.
Yeah,
I will.
You heard things really took off when Anne joined.
And I will preface the conversation by saying that the Align team used to office at the LaunchPad facility in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we know each other well. Anyway,
favorite graduates.
Thank you very much. And just so our audience is fully sort of aware, can you tell us more about what LaunchPad is, what sort of the product and service offerings that you were providing to LaunchPad members prior to COVID? You know, how many companies? Obviously, I've already mentioned the locations, so please tell us more.
All right, sure. So LaunchPad is a network of collaborative workspaces around the country, born in New Orleans. And our focus is on expanding access to working entrepreneurially to more people with a particular focus on underserved markets. So this is sort of the on-ramp to entrepreneurship. And in this day and age, you know, we encourage sort of people to build a career or build a life around business that they want, and that sort of creates agency. And even more so now with the onset of working remotely and people being able to live around the country where they want to choose to live, we create the environment that sort of fosters that collaborative spirit.
Yeah, and over the years, we've focused on what we call momentum markets, great lifestyle cities where people really want to go build their family, build their careers, and build their businesses. And so that's why we've chosen mid-market cities. And the idea is that we're connecting wealth and investment from the coasts into these cities and into these markets, and making them a place that doesn't have brain drain, but rather brain gain.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, LaunchPad is a shared workspace for entrepreneurs and creatives and business people. And so how have you guys sort of been navigating this COVID business disruption? I mean, obviously, it must have had a significant impact on your business. And so how have you guys sort of been navigating those waters?
Yeah, so the last time we were in New Orleans we left basically the day after the Friday before Mardi Gras, which is, you know, it was a big day in the quarter. So as we arrived back in California, we started to see the doors shutting on as COVID kind of hit. And we started to see people having to shelter in place and the crisis. And we saw it also hit our business like a freight train, frankly. Because when you mismatch long-term leases and short-term rents, you've got a lot of folks who are obviously needing flexibility in their business and people who were hit by the crisis immediately. And so we had a big decision to make, which was, how do we continue to operate in these markets where we have small businesses that are being hit really hard by the pandemic, and seeing their business revenues go to zero almost immediately. And so I think what we chose, the decision that we made, we also were facing our own challenges on that front, but the decision we made was to grant relief to our members who were the most in need. And so we created a process immediately around being able to offer rent relief over the last couple of months. And then at the same time, we've been doing all the other things to help educate our members who are often small businesses around access to things like the resources that existed, PPP loans, EIDL loans, any of the emergency relief grants that were provided at a local level, and really seeing ourselves as a resource. Our view was, for our business to be successful, it's about a relationship with our customers. And so we knew that we couldn't take a hard line, even if our landlords were.
Right.
And hopefully by the end of this pandemic, we've given people a little bit of relief, so that when it's time to get back to work, they're going to think of LaunchPad.
And obviously, I've started to see some articles. Obviously, we're sort of going into the reopening phases of businesses and marketplaces and economies. And there's been a lot of written about what sort of workspaces are going to look like, and when people return to the office, what a different environment it's going to be. Given LaunchPad is a shared community space where people are sharing spaces and tables and community kitchens and telephone booths and things like that, what are you guys seeing in terms of moving forward with the design of workspaces when people do return?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, our North Star has been through this. We've got to survive because small businesses are getting hit so hard. It's crucial that LaunchPad exists and exists in these markets to help support the rebirth of the small business environments, to help keep businesses afloat, to help provide resources. So I think that's part of that's you have to have this determination to navigate this, and that's been our North Star and our determination here. We are in the process of beginning to open back up. I think the first thing that this has meant is events and meetups and a lot of the collaboration that comes with non-members is going to be restricted, and we really have to focus on our members and our sort of day-to-day office members and people who work there, so that you sort of collapse the risk factor and have fewer people in the space. Our business model has always been predicated on 3 different products: co-working, permanent desks, and private offices.
Right.
The co-working and permanent desks are in open space, but the private offices are just what they sound like, they're private offices. And people need that to get work done, anyway. You're taking a phone call, you're on a Zoom call, you actually want to have some privacy. So I think one of the things that we see, we've never fully agreed with the collaborative open plan concept that has been sort of somewhat controversial, but people think that that's what Silicon Valley does. And in some cases it does. That's actually different, very different from our model. So your risk factor is reduced quite a bit if you're actually behind a closed door. We're going through all of the usual procedures that you can imagine. I'm happy to go into it, or you can kind of, obviously
check out the CDC website.
Check out the CDC, but obviously, hand washing stations and disinfecting, the countertops and coffee makers and all of that sort of thing.
And markers for space.
Yeah, and sort of, and social distancing. I think that we were actually talking about this morning. I think there's a near-term and a long-term, sort of impact to workspaces. And, you see some concepts of having a plexiglass,
sometimes I like it.
Workspaces and that type of thing. I think anything like that will be temporary. And we're certainly, contemplating that and giving that some thought. But I think social distance will be more the norm, and removing chairs versus having sort of plexiglass dividers. And I think the biggest component is thinking about this statistically from a risk reduction standpoint. If you are in an office, as long as you're in an environment where it's generally the same people coming in every day, you might have some guests and visitors, you've reduced your risk dramatically versus having an environment where it's being used for community events and that type of thing. So that was number one. Number two, we need to follow social distancing, masking, that kind of thing, particularly if you're sort of entering the building where there's more. And number three, I think, our doctor told us this, the biggest change to behavior that is going to come out of this is if you are sick, you need to stay home. It goes without saying, but you cannot. I think that there was a pressure in the workplace to, oh well, I'm under the weather, but I can get my job done. I'm going to come in. That's no more, right? If you feel anything, an itch in your throat or whatever it is, stay home so you don't put people at risk.
And I think we're going to see in that near term places and buildings taking a lot of the pressure in terms of if there needs to be temperature checks, right? We would expect that our buildings doing temperature checks before you get to the actual floor and the office. And I think all of those sort of common sense pieces are going to come into it. But the other thing that we're realizing is, and this is something that we've been doing since now, but also will continue in the future, is that I think a lot of people have a misconception of what co-working is. And so we're seeing people who are actually not having their employees return to the workspace until there's a vaccine. But a lot of those employees are working from home. And I know myself, when I'm at home, doesn't matter how hard I try to get into a separate office, that my 18-month-old, like, she knows I'm there and she will be right up in my business. And so I think what we're going to see is the return to a need for the actual co-working space. And we're even starting to get interest from other CEOs and other folks who have excess space that they don't want to repopulate with their teams. And so what we're starting to do is actually do some consulting on the side where we're helping people think about how do you actually build out and structure space in a post-COVID world. And that's really taking a lot of the principles of what a good co-working space does already, which is about privacy and space and management of that, and basically bringing that to the table. And whereas the workplace of the future 3 months ago used to be about having an executive team and some shared conference rooms, and the majority of the office having collaboration in the core spots. Now what we're going to see is, I hate to say it, probably a little bit of the rise of the cubicle. And second, I think a need for more protected spaces as you start to come back. And you might be coming back to a collaborative workspace and a co-working space for a meeting, but you may not need to convene your team every single day from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And I think that change is going to see the rise of remote work.
Right.
And I think we're ushering in a new day. We were already starting to evolve to that, but this is going to be the issue that actually speeds us on that line. And there's going to be amazing good things that come from it, right? Commute patterns are going to change. Traffic will actually change. The ability to be home with your kids after school is going to change. And so I think what we're actually going to see is this sort of rise of a new remote work culture. And then it's going to be the rise of the co-working space, because even if you're working remotely and you're not in the office that day, or you're working and now you're able to live wherever you want, you still need a professional space to go to that gets you out of your house.
Right, and these are conversations that I'm sure many companies are having. Even we at Align are sort of having these conversations about what does our office look like when we return to the office. Certainly, I think the remote working technology experiment with Zoom and collaborative tools and tools like Align, I mean, people are now understanding that they can be just as productive working from home if they don't have obvious distractions with 18-month-old and 11 and 9-year-old children running around, that the technology certainly allows us to be productive at home, but we do sort of miss that connection from time to time when we do have to get the entire team together. Speaking of that, so one of the things that obviously, one of the great benefits of a shared workspace like LaunchPad for solopreneurs, as I call them, in small businesses, is that sort of sense of community that you build with others who are sharing that space with you. What are you guys doing sort of to help continue foster that community spirit at this time when obviously none of your members are able to return to that space, but still maybe sort of pining for that, you know, community effort and sense of community?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in the intro the introduction of LaunchPad TV. That was a sort of the pivot to digital community building that we did. You know, basically is right as soon as it started in March, we launched that a twice a week web show where we're highlighting members and communities and what's going on. So you know, I think that has been the biggest thing that we've invested in, but it also has given us an opportunity to think about sort of, you know, more digital community building tools and spending our time with nurturing the relationships we have with members in more of a virtual sense. So, but you know, to be frank, we miss it too, right? The meetups, the events, the water cooler or having a beer after work kind of interactions is a huge part of what makes LaunchPad and any co-working space or any office environment. So I think, you know, we've also encouraged our community managers, our members to you know, to continue to kind of reach out to each other. And I think there have been smaller networks where people are you know, continuing that sort of relationship building. But I also know that a lot of our members are kind of chomping at the bit to get back into that environment.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because I think one of the things during this time is you get to take risks that otherwise might feel hard, and just try something. And something that we've really held as a piece that's important is if we can affect or impact one person, even if we do that once a day, then we're building community, right? We're building relationships, we're staying connected with people. And one of the things around that was with LaunchPad TV. And we started with resources, so bringing in experts and resources and banking partners. And it was really amazing to be able to shine a light on the fact that there are so many cracks in the system for small businesses and so many just break points that were underestimated when they were rolling out PPP. And that was a really amazing insight for us. And we were kind of on the journey with our members, and it felt like we were shoulder to shoulder, which is really special. You know, we benefit from shared experience always, and COVID will be a shared experience collectively for the world, right? The second piece on that was, you know, we started to get feedback from people that they were like, this is a nice bright spot. And we were like, okay, you know what? We'll just keep doing it because it's giving someone's finding some value in it. Right. I got a handwritten card. And we started to realize that like, we can have fun with this and connect with our members in a new way. And maybe we have 20, maybe we have 50 on during one of those meetings, but in general, we're touching at least one member every time we do a show, and we're highlighting one member every time we do a show. And I think that was something that was really interesting. And even just having a conversation with our guests kind of gave us this opportunity of like engaging out of our house in a way that was like different than a big Zoom meeting, right? And the Zoom meetings get exhausting because you're always, you know, it's like who's talking and everybody has to go around the circle and do that. And actually having a live conversation like this is actually pretty fulfilling. Right. And so I think we started to realize that format of connecting with people, whether that's virtual or in person, is great. And then here we've started to see, and I think this is what's happening in our locations, is there's a feeling as people start to repopulate that connection and that energy that you get from even just a six foot away conversation in real life. It's really, really powerful in terms of feeding the soul. And so I think we're starting to see our members start to repopulate slowly. But really enjoying just getting that moment of normalcy around the water cooler to just kind of catch up with someone and do the pass by. And that's what really does make community, you know? We don't need the events to make the community. We just need the community to be there, and,
Right.
and they make it for themselves.
Mhm.
That's great. And certainly that was sort of the impetus for us starting these daily dose of advice, where we just wanted to sort of reach out to the community, highlight people who had good advice, good insights, good feedback that might be of benefit and help to others. So the final question that I ask everyone that comes on the daily dose of advice: what is the #1 piece of advice that you would share with other entrepreneurs and business owners right now?
Can I go?
Go ahead.
And then you can
Yeah.
go. I'm like, don't steal mine. My biggest advice would be, if you have anything on your list that seems scary, try it. Move forward, step forward, take risks. Now is the best time to make scary moves, because if you don't, not moving is actually more dangerous than making a mistake. And so that continues to be my advice, which is just try it. Now's the best time to fail.
Yep. Chris, anything else?
You took what I was going to say, but
That's why I jumped in. I knew you were going to say it.
I'm going to build on that, and just, you know, I think one of the things that has been really crucial for us, and the word of advice when I'm on the phone with LaunchPad members, is just the importance of perseverance during this time. You know, in New Orleans, we've been through it before with Hurricane Katrina. You know, businesses, you know, business cycles, economic cycles, recessions, they do happen. I think that we've found, you know, that maybe because we're a little bit further along in our career and a little bit older, that that has been maybe a steadying word to people who are earlier in the career, and like, oh, you know, we're, you know, everything's going to, you know, everything's falling apart. It may feel that way, but you've got to stay alive, right? You got to persevere. You got to get through, and we will get through this. And those that do will be stronger for it. So
It's Gen X's moment.
It's time to shine.
Right.
Chris and Ann, it's always a pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you for joining us. For those of you that would like to learn more about LaunchPad, you can go to their website at lp.co. Would you also tell everybody how they can access LaunchPad TV?
Sure. You can follow us on Twitter at LaunchPad, and we tweet it out. We do episodes on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and so we'll tweet out upcoming episodes, and you can watch live, or you can watch our archive of shows on YouTube, and our channel is LaunchPad TV on YouTube, so you can go watch past shows there.
Great. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Align and the Align software, please check out aligntoday.com, and we hope that you will join us on our next daily dose of advice. Till then, thank you so much, and we hope that you make it a great day. Thanks, guys.